What's up, amazing people? Welcome to another video. I'm Rob Stuart, and I'm here to help you get your skin and your overall freaking health back on track. In today's video, I have an absolutely amazing interview with Tim Shieff. In this interview, we cover so many amazing things, including plant medicine, psychedelics, the role that diet and nutrition play in both mental health, physical health, emotional health, spiritual health. Tim talks about being an ex-vegan and his transition through all the different diets he's tried throughout his life. We go deep into movement, we go deep into plant medicines, we go deep into what it takes to be consistent and healthy in life. For those of you who do not know Tim Shieff, he is an absolutely amazing movement culture phenomenon. He is a parkour champion. He's competed on American Ninja Warrior and I think a European Ninja Warrior. He's a Ninja Warrior competition dude. He's an ex-vegan, he's a soul searcher, he's an amazing mover, he's a person that pushes the envelope with both movement and diet and exploration of the mind and the soul. Today's interview, we go super deep. Hey, if you guys are liking this content, remember to subscribe and share and hit the notification bell. Leave all of your comments and questions down below. Much love. Peace.
All right.
Tim, thanks so much for coming on the show today. I'm super excited to talk shop with you. I've been kind of a fanboy of yours for a long time, probably, man, even before you were doing your vegan journey, back in the days of your parkour. Probably because for me, there's not a lot of role models that are my size or my shape. And I think you as a human naturally gravitate towards being inspired by people who are kind of in the same realm. So thanks for coming on the show. I'm really glad to have you.
Thank you, man. No, I remember seeing your video. Yeah, I'm sure we'll get into it, but I was at the gym helping myself to sort of come out of veganism. I was watching other people with similar stories. And your story really helped me. I was just in the gym working out and I just could see your transition and how authentic you were being as well. And so I just want to thank you for that service at that time for me.
No problem. Thanks for the feedback. It's been a challenging and really rewarding journey. And it's probably a good place to kick off the conversation. I was scrolling through your Instagram earlier today. And I was kind of like really not shocked, but just kind of inspired and kind of like, this is really an interesting evolution, like all the way back to like, you know, I saw one post that was labeled like my favorite American snacks. And it was like Lucky Charms, Twizzlers, you know, Cinnamon Toast Crunch cereal, which is all stuff that back in the day I used to eat on a regular basis. And then you go from that to kind of some good supplementation and then plant-based and then vegan and then drinking urine and cleansing and detoxing and water fasting. And then now on to your current approach. I think my first real question is, what is your overall dietary philosophy and kind of where are you at right now with everything?
Yeah, it's a big question because it's always evolving. And I did, throughout the last 12 months, I did several stints at Carnivore. And I was watching your content there and you were saying you've been on and off it for a few years now and introduced some blueberries and things like that. So I was doing that. I was really committed to it. I did it 3 times, and the third time I really committed hardcore to it. And towards the end of it, I just couldn't quite feel. I thought my energy was going to pick up and I was going to adapt, and maybe I needed to go longer, but it just never happened. So I reintroduced some carbs to my diet, and I'm currently actually sort of experimenting with the vertical diet, which I don't know if you know that one, but that's kind of between the two worlds of veganism and carnivore. It's like meat and rice basically, and then a few other micronutrients as well. But essentially that's it. I'm eating mostly like purely animal-based meals, like fish and eggs for breakfast, and I'll have a steak and eggs in the evening, something like that. And then in between it, I'll have maybe a rice meal and a salad. And that's basically my philosophy. It's like all whole food, locally sourced. I work in a whole food shop now at the moment, just so I could connect with the food and people and community, especially at this time. I'm doing deliveries and I'm seeing all this fresh organic produce come in that a few months ago I was rejecting, you know, I was on the carnivore path and completely against and I feel like there is a place for vegetables. It can be easy to go vegan, completely poo-poo the plant, the animal products, and you go carnivore, and you get in that mindset, and you're listening to people, and you really, I was so against plants and saying we don't need plants, and now I just found kind of a happy middle ground where I'm still applying. I learned so much from doing the carnivore experiments that I did, that I'm implementing a lot of that, and I know when it's timing these certain meals for what I've got coming up and what I've just done, and so I'm applying that. But it's kind of like, you need to go to the gym, but you also need to rest. And I see plants and other people have explained it the same way, plant food and animal foods like that. You need stressors and you need not stressors, builders as well. And it's sort of there with my food philosophy, and I feel like I'm getting some good ground now.
Yeah, I feel that big time. I get in trouble a lot, and I did as a vegan too, with I say hashtag carnivore or hashtag primal or hashtag paleo, and then they see me eating apples and honey, and they're like, dude, that's not carnivore. And for me, I'm not really trying to have a badge that makes me a member of a club. As a vegan, and I'm not sure how you felt, but as a vegan, I felt called to doing that for many reasons, but I also felt somewhat strange at times because I didn't always agree with the total message of the group and the group think. Same thing with full gnarly right swinging carnivore. But as you said, you know, you do these things and you go deep into them because they help your refinement process. They help you learn. They help you figure out what each individual needs. I'm curious, I don't really want to, you know, harp too much on ex-vegan, vegan, that type of thing. I want to get to know you more holistically, but I am curious on how you're feeling compared to your last, you know, 6 months as vegan, and also maybe share with people if that transition leaving veganism was challenging or hard for you in any way.
Yeah, man, the last 6 months of veganism were pretty grim for me, and I definitely feel like I'm in a new chapter of life. And it was in 2018, just the end of 2018, when I stopped being vegan. And if I'm honest, I feel like I've still been working hard since then to recover, truly, you know, and I know you feel it too. It's like the last few months, I feel like I've finally made some decent progress. But honestly, I mean, because the carnivore diet, it's another one as well, where there is other emotional issues that need to be faced. Fundamentally, we live in a physical, chemical world where we need certain chemicals to survive, right? So there are food groups that when you miss it, I had deficiencies, no doubt in my mind. There was deficiencies from not eating animal products. So in reintroducing them, I felt certain parts of me come back to life, but then there's certain digestive things and other things. I don't want to have to just live carnivore because it's the only thing that doesn't inflame me. I want to be able to eat the other foods and not have to worry about inflammation all the time. Now, I feel like I have to limit the spectrum of what I allow in because of that. But I definitely feel like it's a long process coming out of veganism. And that's one of the reasons I spoke out, and it's good that you spoke out, even though we had followings in those areas. Because the further you go into it, the harder it is to come out of it and just carry on life as you was before, like other humans that just carry on. And it's like, we had some serious deficiencies and gut issues that it's just hard to heal that stuff because it's going on. It's so subtle and subliminal and internal. It's hard to know. It's just a minefield, isn't it?
Yeah, it is tough. And I think when you also combine kind of publicly sharing your life and having people who look to you for help and advice and inspiration, and you're a part of a special club when you're vegan, and it's kind of similar to when you're a strict carnivore dieter. You're a part of a group that's unique and different. And I feel that, you know, pulling back to the middle and finding our own way is kind of the whole reason I went to veganism in the first place. You know, it wasn't for me a full on for the animals, for the planet start. It was, I'm fully a diseased person, and not only physically, but mentally and emotionally. And I need some intervention to help me. I'm wondering for you, what was the initial push into veganism for you?
Yeah, it was, to be honest, it was sort of an ethical choice. I was getting into sort of more spiritual teachings and realizing that why should my life cost another being its life? And so I could never kill an animal at that stage of my life. I couldn't kill an animal myself. I hadn't been raised with the awareness. I wasn't raised around farm animals. So I thought, I was shocked to realize what was going on from Gary Yourofsky's speeches. And given the science from Dr. Greger, you know, and believing fully wholeheartedly that it's possible to be vegan and get everything you need and you don't even have to worry that much. And truly I felt there's so many different plates of health that you're spinning, right? And like a lot of plates, well, maybe that's not the right metaphor, but I just felt better in all these different things. The health markers went up in so many areas, but secretly other ones were going down that I was in denial of. But it was seeing the animals hurt, that treated that way and killed. I couldn't stand it. On the other side of it, when my health started to go, I felt like it helped me to look to the peripherals of veganism and to see truths I was in denial of before, that actually even when I'm eating plants, that's killing animals as well. And animals are still dying for my choices. There is no survival without sacrifice. There is no my life going on without death. There's death to plants, death to animals on all scales, right? On macro and a micro level, cells are getting eaten and everything. And so it was sort of spirituality that led me out of it, because I was going, okay, so if an animal's going to die for my choices anyway, let me see the animal on my plate so I can give it credit, I can pray for it, I can give thanks, and then it can nourish me, and I can carry on with my life, and if that works, that works. And it just so happened that it worked. I felt better, and I thought, well, that's it. Then I've been searching so long to solve these issues that have slowly gotten worse and worse, and I've tried desperately with urine fasting and all sorts of diets within veganism, and it wasn't until I tried animal products that it was just couldn't be clearer that that's something I'd been missing and that I needed to change.
Yeah, man, you're kind of telling a very similar story. You know, I can relate to that majorly. For you, I know for me, as soon as I kind of got over the hump mentally and said, okay, I am just gonna, I think I started with salmon and eggs. And I can remember the first salmon bite that I took, and not to be like dramatic, but it was like orgasmic. It was, my face flushed. My partner at the time, she was sitting right in front of me, and she looked at me kind of like in this like intense way. And she's like, Rob, your face and your eyes just came alive. I haven't seen you look like this in a long time. And I'm like, oh man, it felt different. It was an instant, not hope or dream or projection. It was an instant wisdom and knowing that, okay, I have to jump into this further. I'm curious, with kind of the way you're eating right now, having some plant-based food, some plant-based meals, and then incorporating a good deal of bioavailable animal foods as well. What improvements have you felt so far with kind of your new approach?
I mean, directly similar to you, I felt pretty instantly, just I knew something had shifted. Like there was just a knowing that went on that night. And this is what went kind of viral, was I shared that I had a wet dream that the first night, and I hadn't ejaculated in months, not because I couldn't or because I was struggling in any way. I just wasn't in a place of thinking sexually. When you're on spiritual practices, you're trying to heal. I was focused on healing, not chasing girls. Like that's your priority, you know. So when that happened, and then I had a wet dream, I thought that's interesting. Like for me, it's not like a definite thing that it means that everyone should eat salmon, but it was an interesting observation that something had reacted in my body, and I, you know, little things like I started to feel warmer. I felt a brain fog, and it was really like a cloudy depression. It's weird with depression, especially when you're, and this is the thing with a lot of, because there's the whole spiritual aspect within veganism. There's quite a spiritual community, and within spirituality, you're taught kind of acceptance. And so I was depressed, but I wasn't attached to the depression. But my body was shutting down, so there was a fight that was going on for me to try and not feel depressed because it was happening. And when I ate animal products, and I just remember driving around I lived by a roundabout, and just driving around the roundabout and feeling like, wow, this is how life can feel. This is how it used to feel. it was a really weird nostalgic feeling that because veganism is such a slow decline, I came out of it and it was so like, wow, this is how life used to be before it got to this place. And it was like, when your body does shut down, it just brings everything with it. The mind and the soul is the last to go. And that's why I ended up fasting. But coming out of it and reintroducing the products, the animal products, and everything I've learned, and being able to train again and being able to train physically, that's probably been one of the hardest things, because I don't know whether it was from vegan, well, I'm pretty sure it was, but you know, joints and muscles became kind of like dehydrated and weren't getting nutrition for a while. And so to try and wake them back up again, it is, and navigating out of the fragility, I felt really fragile towards the end with veganism. I was getting injured just, you know, doing yoga. I was getting injured. I would pull my groin and I couldn't go to yoga for weeks. I wouldn't heal. These muscle tears wouldn't heal. And so coming out of it, I start to train again, and I'd be around my friends who didn't have the same issues, and they'd be going hard, and I'd be so timid, and I'd train, and I'd take like a week off before I'd train again, because I'd be scared to pull something. And it took me ages to realize your body can, you know, with the right nutrition, you can train and train the next day and train the next day, and you can build from where you are now. And so doing that, kind of working on correcting biomechanics from where they were even before veganism, but correcting that along with the damage from veganism, it's really my focus. Is a lot of biomechanical work, I got into kettlebells lately and some wet method stuff, which I'm sure we could talk about.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. Yeah, that's actually a perfect transition. I think another thing that strikes me when I look at your body of work, and I'm not talking really about your accomplishments, but more, you know, just your sharings on YouTube and Instagram and social media. I've noticed your body has shifted and refined and shrunk and grown and changed, really depending on both your spiritual aspirations at the time and the sport you're playing, plus kind of your daily movement activities. And I'm really curious to get an insight into your methodology of how you pick what to do. Is it just you're following your passion and just, okay, I feel like running, so I'm going to become a runner? Or what is it that really motivates you and drives you to move and change it up so well?
Yeah, it's a very good question. It really is following my passion at the time. And for me, that biomechanics, which everyone talks about mobility these days, everyone sort of understands what that is now. It's very trendy for now big guys to talk about training their mobility, and you see strong men talk about working mobility and stuff. And I think what's going to be next beyond that is biomechanics, because that's actually looking at the body as sort of the mechanics of what it's designed to do, which is to locomote, which is to walk and run. We have a mind, which is a consciousness, our awareness. Well, it's in all of us, but we transport our mind around this realm that we're in. And so what we're designed to do is, the body's kind of like the transport vehicle, and the way most people use it, because of, I don't know whether there's been a forgetting or what, but we're in the gym and we're kind of making ourselves rigid so that we can take these big weights, but we're not very fluid with it. And biomechanically, we can be fluid. If you look at the way animals move, like tigers, especially cats, and the way they move, but other animals as well, they're always, every joint works together as they're moving. Nothing is ever just isolated, really. And so we end up walking, because of thick shoes and the way other people move, because you grow up watching your parents and they're quite stiff. Well, my parents are anyway. So we end up moving quite stiff, when actually there's a way, we have an animal body which is biomechanically designed to move in these sort of figure of 8 patterns. And I don't want to get too complex with it, but there's a way we can move which is more effortless in walking and running. And that's what I'm sort of trying to tap into. And that's led me to, why are we tight? Why have we got this lack of mobility? And it's more to do with not using our body the way it was designed. Sorry, I've got some things popping up. So I'm trying to understand, how is it designed to work? And when I access that, does that then start to unlock my mobility? Because a lot of people are going straight to mobility and trying to open their hips up, but for what? So that they can squat a bigger weight. But it does not, that's not the if you go upstream to what the body's designed to do, it's not necessarily serving your locomotion and your ability to walk. And so everything we do should have a respect to, is this hindering or helping the way I walk and run. And if you look at it that way, then you can start to choose how you're training. So I'm focused on training at the moment, which helps my walking and running, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't have to be strength training and I can't be strong as well, because as long as I'm doing it with respect to that, I can still build strength as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. I couldn't agree more. You know, humans are bipedal creatures, and the figure eight motions that you're talking about, for people that have digestional issues, which is a big portion of the crowd that I speak to and work with, the main thing I tell people to do is walk several hours daily, and maybe not all at one chunk if you're brand new to it, but getting out and walking and dancing, man, it can really, really change your mind, but also that figure eight motion, it massages your pelvic floor, it works your organs.
Yes, you know, bro.
It's amazing. And I think one of my favorite ways to walk is when you can get out into nature and get on terrain that's uneven and maybe have some elevation pitches and switches. There's something, for lack of a better word, natural about that. It feels good. It feels right. And when you kind of build strength around that bipedal motion, throw in some other things like picking things off the ground, lifting yourself up, climbing, it changes the game. I'm curious. I'm a man, and I look in the mirror and I enjoy when I'm physically fit and healthy. And at times I've struggled to find that balance between, I got to hit the gym and be this size, big chest and shoulders and a certain size arms to fill out my shirt and abs that you can see and this, that, and the other. And there's been a battle at times between functionally moving for being a human and the way that I look. And I'm curious if any parts of your training have to do with aesthetics, or if it's just purely functional and for the sake of being a more human, if you will.
Yeah. Honestly, all of my training has only ever been purely, functional. And I did parkour before, for those that don't know. I did free running, and then coming to more awareness of how the body functions. I've only ever focused on functionality and, look at the draw or genetics or whatever. My body's always been fairly sculpted just naturally, but it's not something I chase. But it's kind of like calisthenics guys. Like, you look at calisthenics guys and they're consistently ripped, because I wouldn't say they're the epitome of functionality, but they're definitely up there in terms of using the body, just purely body weight, in creative ways, in different angles. And there probably is a lot of, when they're doing, kind of one-sided dips and these angled stuff where they're prioritizing one side over the other, that's all related to locomotion in my book. So if you do things that do respect human movement naturally, I think you do naturally have a more aesthetic body. But I understand, even more recently, I'm coming to look at strongman training and bodybuilders and have much more respect for them than I ever had. Because I think their ability to isolate muscles, and it is called bodybuilding. When you ignore the association of it, it's actually there. And I talk about rebuilding the body, and I only recently realized bodybuilding, I'm rebuilding, body rebuilding, but they've been building. So that I think there's a lot to learn from that community. But I just think you kind of, in anything, in any world, you can get lost in the ego side of it, but that doesn't mean that there's not beauty and stuff to learn there.
All very true. And I've also found for me that it goes beyond ego. There's like, it's kind of like the natural needs and desires of the human brain and body and emotions. Like, you're attracted to certain women, not because they fit a certain type socially, but I like women that my friends don't like, and they like women that I don't like. Well, there's a genetic evolutionary part of that. And I also think that goes back to, when you look at yourself in the mirror, or when you see a picture of yourself and you're healthy and you're vibrant, however that looks, whether it's slightly thicker or slightly thinner, it looks good. It's attractive to yourself.
Yeah. There's an innate awareness, isn't there? And that's why people have fake tans and big fake boobs, and they do all these jobs, because there's something that's innate about what is attractive. So they fake that rather than find it by walking in nature and having the top off and getting tan naturally or whatever.
Totally. And that's kind of also a good point. One thing that I've noticed with you, I've watched a lot of your stuff when you were practicing with Wim Hof. One thing that I picked up from you that I didn't ever really think about in this way was taking your sunglasses off, allowing the sun to hit your retinas and to get that information and that processing and that vitamin D absorption. Could you talk a little bit about on your philosophy of getting out into nature, getting the sun, feeling the cold, feeling the hot, having the real world hit your skin?
Yeah. Yeah, I just think that one of my journeys is to understand what it is to be human, and that's why I call myself Human Timothy, because that's the one thing I know. If I call myself Vegan Timothy, that changed. Somewhere in me knew not to call myself Vegan Timothy. Human is the only consistent that I am, and so when I try to identify things that are consistent throughout all humans, throughout all history, it's like we come out naked into this world, and the world is changed by humans, but what existed before it was the trees and the earth and the dirt and the lakes and the rivers and our bodies. And so I try to, I have no problem being naked in bodies of water around friends or anything like that. And I think that's something that we should all be comfortable being naked on our own, first of all. Some people aren't comfortable on their own being naked, and that's something to address, but also with others. And in nature especially, there's something really wholesome. I try to identify the things that are subtly fulfilling, not surface, like grandiose. Like, yeah, of course we all like money and cars and things like that. That's all good, but we understand the soul's not going to be satisfied by that stuff. You can have that, but it's not going to really satisfy you. So the soul stuff, the subtle stuff, is always to do with nature. It's always to do with our nature and our relationship to nature. And so spending a lot of time in it, asking questions, maybe playing with a few different plant medicines as well, which can kind of shift the cogs to a different degree, so you pick up a different frequency when you're out there, and asking questions of nature that humans would have asked for time immemorial. And just because our society may have an answer for you doesn't mean that it's necessarily the answer. So just keep asking the questions. So I like to go out, and I like to trust that I've been designed. Like, I wouldn't suddenly go to Africa and take sunglasses off and be naked. I think that's, you're going to ask for a problem then. That's not my genetics. But as long as I'm in England or close to this part of the world, I think I'm okay to be without sunglasses and shirtless in the sun here. And I'll have to listen to my body, and maybe, as summer comes, I'll do an hour or two, and then and take a day off, and then do 3 hours, and listen to what's going on. And you can have sunglasses on and off, but it's to complete the way I see people just step outside and sunglasses on straight away, as though the sunglasses are a solution that humans came up with 50 years ago, and somehow we would have been blinded for the last millions of years before that. Like, God made a mistake with our retinas. We would have more darker retinas if it was a problem. So I kind of looked at positions where I can have faith in nature, and I kind of test myself like that.
Yeah, very, very cool. I couldn't agree more. And also kind of the natural aspect of being outside for me was one of the things, and you kind of just hit on this point gently, but that's what led me to the discovery of plant medicines for myself. Yeah. And, lots of different ways to ingest or to get into the world of plant medicines. You have ayahuasca, you have peyote, you have mushrooms to a certain extent for many people as like an entry point. And I've had some profound experiences with all of those things. I'm curious if you've had any nice downloads or any time that the veil has been lifted and you've gotten any real source of inspiration from shamanic type of voyages for yourself personally.
Yeah, I've played with a few. I have done peyote, but it was a proper ceremony, but it's quite calming and gentle. And I've done ayahuasca once and DMT a few times. But for me, the staple that I keep coming back to is mushrooms, really. As they grow they pretty much grow all around the world, right? But they grow here in England. Ayahuasca is a bit more of an exotic thing to do. So we have mushrooms here, and I've done them on so many levels where I've done frequent microdoses. Yeah. And then I've done heroic doses, and I don't feel like for now I need much more than that. I do want to experiment with San Pedro, but mushrooms, and the most recent download for me from mushrooms was well, for one, I see it as kind of like tidying your mind, right? And because the mind and the body is so connected, when the mind is tidy, the body feels a lot better. And you tidy your house when the house is messy, but the day after you tidied your house, you don't just tidy it again for the sake of it. And that's the way kind of plant medicines work. You don't want to just, they'll help tidy your mind, but they're not, I think people are scared of them. They label them as drugs, which give you a boost during it and then you pay for it after. Whereas plant medicines don't do that. You pay for it during. You're doing the hard work. You're on your hands and knees tidying the house, and then afterwards you get to lie in a tidy house for a bit until the house gets messy again, and then you need to go do some more plant medicines. But they feel so friendly when especially mushrooms. They don't feel, even I remember the beginning when I hadn't done them much, but every time I'd do them and I'd have a little fear of them, but it would come over me and it would feel like, it felt like I remembered what it was like it's just something in humans. It felt friendly, like it wasn't there to hurt me. It was there to help get me through what I needed, bring up to the surface what needed to be brought up so that I could go forward with my life. And so I tried to do them more at like junctions in my life before big decisions and just to get clarity. It kind of inverts yourself because it's so hard to detach from the human that you are and living in, looking out, and it does help you to detach from it and actually look and reflect on yourself and your relationships and your environment and just make solid decisions, because we can get so indecisive, and I think it just helps you to be decisive for a while.
Yeah, for sure. It's like, for me, a lot of times when I would have kind of powerful experiences, especially on mushrooms, it was like there was a certain clarity of purpose, and it was like almost so crystal clear that I was having the experience and feeling things so deeply. It was like a golden key was there during the experience. And then as the experience mellows out and you come back to your natural state, you can still tap into it and feel it, but it's not as clear. And then it almost feels like my job now is to make that happen in a normal setting. And how can I bridge that gap between where I was and how that felt and where I'm at on a daily basis to more of a way of living?
That's exactly it, brother. That's exactly it. It reminds you of your spiritual power and your potential, and you get such clarity of like your direction. And then, as you say, coming out of it, I don't like to call it reality, but like the real world reality in quotation marks hits, and you go, okay, yeah, I've still got work to do, but at least I know my direction and I can make choices in that angle.
Yeah, it gives you a for sure glimpse of states that might be obtainable. And for me, it kind of gave me a spiritual uplifting in a way that was like, okay, there's other states of being that I haven't tapped into yet on a regular daily basis, but now I know they're there. So now I have a better aim and a better trajectory.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and one thing that recently was like, if these mushrooms can be so healing, and what about the rest of that kingdom? Because mushrooms are closer to human DNA than they are to plant DNA. We kind of label them plants, but once you start to for me, it's like I can get profound life shifts from simple truths like that. Like, mushrooms are not plants and they're closer to our genetics. So it's a whole world in itself not to be labeled plants. And so it was like, if the magic mushrooms and liberty caps and golden teachers and these ones can do so much, what about the rest of the kingdom? And that made me look a little deeper at Paul Stammer's work, looking at lion's mane, chaga, reishi. And so I started to implement these a lot more lately. And for anyone that doesn't know, these are medicinal mushrooms, not psychoactive mushrooms and psilocybin mushrooms. These have had a profound effect on my life, on my focus, on my drive. In the last few months since that last trip, I was like, look at the rest of the kingdom, and I started to find some high quality stuff, some like wild foraged or log grown, quite compact. Lion's mane mainly has been the one, but chaga and reishi as well, and they've been so powerful in guiding me. And so for me, that's kind of the next wave of where my nutrition and supplements has been at, is looking at it's very natural, right? It's from this kingdom that our ancestors always knew and had access to, but it works subtly and it works with you on many levels.
Yeah, dude, I'm totally having a very similar experience. For me, one of the awakenings, I've always been, I was raised in a family where I'm ginger. My whole family's ginger, where my parents are from the Midwest, but we are a music soul driven family. My parents used to, when they were dating, go to the wrong side of town and do bebops and jitterbug in the black clubs. And
Yeah,
we grew up in a family that was listening to soul music and hip hop and R&B and Stevie Wonder. And so movement and dance has always been a part of my being. And when I kind of went into the plant medicine kingdom, it brought my whole connection with my movement and my movement practices to another level. And like you, I like, my thing in the morning is green tea, little matcha green tea. That's
nice.
kind of my thing. But I've throughout time added chaga to that, and I notice a little dial up when I have chaga in my body into, like, if I have matcha green tea and chaga and then go to ecstatic dance or just go to a friend's house and we're all grooving, there's a little extra something that's there. So I think
Yeah,
that's a fun place to explore more for myself as well.
yeah, I'd absolutely say that's cool that we need these the avenues in life where we can test what we're testing, and you need things like that. So you go to your dance and you try different things and you feel different kinds of ways. And that's, for me, since lockdown, I've not been going to yoga, but I used to go to yoga 5, 6, 7 times a week, and that's such a great uh, place just to test out my diet and my nutrition, because I know if I'm getting locked up or if I'm opening up. And it was always more to do with what I was eating than actually the yoga itself. It was like I would eat right, and I would go there and notice I would be more open, but it wasn't from the practice. And that's just an interesting thing to have.
100%. And I think that kind of circles back the conversation. When I was going through my yoga therapy certification, when I lived in San Francisco and Oakland, California, um, I was plant-based then and was feeling this weird shift. Like I'm doing meditative practices and yoga all day, and my meditations were just becoming extremely powerful, but my flexibility as a vegan kind of went really bad. It was
Yeah,
like, and I was grappling with that, and I kind of wouldn't admit it to myself. It was, must have been something else. Maybe I'm overstretching, or maybe my breath works off. And I
yeah,
think one of the most important things that I've learned, and I'm seeing the same thing with what you share, is being honest with the biofeedback of your actual body,
yes,
and being truthful with, okay, this is how I actually feel. This is actually how my digestion is. This is how my mood and my hormones are, and being brave enough or okay enough to experiment and really just kind of see what the facts are for yourself.
yeah. So what do you think that was for you with veganism that made you tighter? Because I noticed the same thing towards the end, and that was what made me question
You
it. Is
know,
it sugar or gluten or?
it might have been, but I went a lot of phases as a plant-based person with absolutely no grains and no gluten for nice long stretches. And I didn't see the type of bodily changes that I saw in the last 2 years being eating animal foods, including my flexibility. And I think for me, really, it was a matter of, I was most likely having some insulin issues and some hypertension
Yeah,
and some inflammation. And I think anytime your body's going through that, it's gonna kind of
tighten up.
tighten up and shut down.
So then sugar and fruit basically that was spiking you in.
Probably, yeah, not, yeah. And I want to be really try to be impeccable with my word as much as I can. I
Yeah,
don't necessarily think that fruit was the issue, but I think that the fact that I was 80% of my calories on a daily basis were from high glycemic carbohydrate foods.
yes,
Because I can go through phases now where I'm, compared to most carnivore dieters, I'm eating 150, 100 grams of nice carbohydrates per day, and it doesn't do anything negative. It only kind of makes me feel slightly
fruit,
more
vegetable.
explosive. Sometimes fruit, sometimes, so the carbohydrates that I'm playing with right now, sweet potatoes,
Yeah,
normal potatoes, which have always just worked for me, some local raw honey, and then low glycemic fruits like pears, cucumbers, possibly an avocado if it's really ripe and delicious here and there.
Wait, why not rub avocados often? Because
You know, there's no issue really with avocados on paper. For me, I'm just one of those people that I'm somewhat picky with the taste of the avocados. And if they're not like perfectly like juicy and ripe and that just perfect creaminess, I'm just, I don't even bother with it.
smart, yeah, I like it.
So curious with your kind of current flow in life, with this weird state that we're all in with the coronavirus, and even pre-virus, I'll call it, what's your typical day of movement look like? How do you like coordinate your day with how much you want to move, and what do you actually kind of do on a daily basis right now?
Yeah, I'm moving every day, and I got into kettlebells recently, so that's been fun exploring that. And I got competition kettlebells, so they're all the same size but different weights, and the colors are nice. Maybe there's something in the mushrooms that drew me to that, but it's very appealing. But I'm also doing a lot of walking and running, and kind of like I moved to a new area just before the lockdown started, and so I've been exploring the local hills here, and yeah, running and walking. I'm rolling ropes every day, which is kind of like, people might have seen me on my Instagram if they follow me, swinging these ropes, which helps with locomotion. And I've started to run, but I'm trying to do it. When I run, I end up, I've got a history where I've ran marathons and 100-kilometer races. And that was 2 years before the tail end of veganism. And I would have niggles that I would just ignore. And so now I got to a point where I didn't like having niggles. I'd rather not train than train through a niggle. And I think a lot of humans, they're addicted to their sport, and they have a niggle, and once they warm up, they don't feel it. In between it, they manage it, but I could not ignore those in my body anymore. And so I got into running, but I'm really listening this time. So as I build up my running, I'm building it up organically and not in a way that's going to tax and take away from the end of my life in a way. So I'm just going really gentle. I ran 2 miles today. I ran 3 miles yesterday. And I probably won't run tomorrow, and then I'll run again the day after. And I'm just trying to build up slow, gentle miles so that I can run. And I end up going in the mountains and running hard, and the heart rate's high, and then I feel burnt out for 2 days. And some people can feel burnt out, and then they'll warm up and they'll train and they'll go hard the next day. And then I've done that before. I did CrossFit for a while, and I'd be so tired walking in there yawning, and I'd hammer the WOD, feel great afterwards, and the next day I'd wake up feeling absolutely burnt out, and I'd go again, and that was just not conducive to longevity. So I'm trying to find this training point, which I'm sure you're at, where you still progress and you still push yourself, but you don't ignore the signs saying you're overtraining. And it's kind of it's a new place to be learning, but it's tough, but I'm getting better at it.
Yeah, I feel you. I've had that same battle for most of my life. I was a former, Division I scholarship baseball player, and it was about explosiveness and what's your squat, what's your overhead press, how hard do you throw, how far can you hit the ball, and you're always a little banged up as a high level athlete. And then as I got into my late 20s, doing way too much pushing and not enough pulling exercises, not enough just moving like a human, I really messed up of all things. I was doing a joking around breakdance crow move. I jumped up and I hit a pause, and I tore my rotator cuff and my brachialis pretty bad. So I had surgery, and that took me 10 years to be able to do a normal push-up after that. And yeah, it was a bad road to recovery. And then 5 years later, my other shoulder started kind of feeling it that same way. And instead of just doing the same crap and hoping that it didn't, erupt, I had to change my whole mentality. That's basically what got me into yoga therapy. And now I'm in the philosophy the same as you. I don't want to be sore to the point where it affects my life negatively ever. Like maybe once in a while, really push myself and get sore and then recover. But I want to move and I want to move every day. I want to move and feel good every day. And I do want to have a progression and a refinement. And so for me, what I've found is that the old kind of greasing the groove.
Greasing the groove was in my head, bro. You said it. Yeah.
to me, it's the most genius thing ever. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
you allow your body to dictate where your intensities are at. So every day I'm going to, like you, I'm going to do some kettlebells. I'm going to do some pull-ups. I might do some push-ups. I might do some, Ido Portal style, like Floria groundwork to like open up my hips and work my lower body. And sometimes it'll turn into a very intense, hard workout. But 85% of the time, it's just actually kind of easy and fun, and trying to stack what I call enjoyable movement volume into my day. And the more I can do that, the more it fills me up with goodness. And I can see it in my body. It gives me what I want. And at the same time, I'm not like tomorrow, I'm not going to be waking up and like, oh, needing to go to the chiropractor or, just needing to whatever. So greasing the groove is huge.
Yeah, that's exactly it. There's nothing more depressing than stepping out of bed in the morning and that first step is painful. That is not a way to live, and that's how many of us lived, and I lived like that for years, and it's just not a nice way to start your day. So yeah, greasing the groove. Thank you for reaffirming that. That's been really in my head the last week or so. It's like, stop going so hard, grease the groove, and then you've said it there. So that's the new wave, brother. I'm on it.
Yeah, there's that neurotic tendency that I have to fight to be like, you're not doing enough. You got to go to failure. You got to push and push and push. And then, you kind of talked about one of the worst feelings in the world is waking up and just feeling horrible. That sucks. But for me, what's even worse is not wanting to move my body. Yeah. When I'm in a place where I'm like looking at a pull-up and I'm like, dude, I'm like trembling. Like I got to do pull-ups today. Shit. Yeah. That's not a good mental place to be. I'd rather be in that place where I'm going to be like, oh, dude, I get to like work my scapular retraction and really like work my body and explore different angles and things and more enjoyable. And plus I'm 40 years old. I'm not a little young guy anymore. Wow. Yeah. And so I'm looking at 50 and 60 and 70 and 80. And I want to be 80 years old and still be able to have sex, dance, climb mountains, do anything I want, and not just kind of like creaking along. I want to be able to have some good mobility and strength when I'm that age. So what I've noticed, here's a question for you. I had a text. I was talking to a buddy and I said, oh, I'm interviewing Tim and I'm super excited about it. I've been following him for a bit. And he's like, yeah, man, have you checked out his new stuff? He's all into jump roping. And I was like, whoa. Like, circle back there, brother. Like, he's not jump roping. He's using a rope. I believe you're calling it the way of the rope. I'd love to hear about this new thing that you're doing. You're just teasing us with the content right now, I can see. But I'd like to hear, where did this come from? What's kind of the general idea behind it?
Yeah, so on the path of biomechanics, it led me to functional patterns, which some people might know. And so I pursued that. I did the Human Foundations course with them because they relate everything to locomotion. The founder he asks a lot of the right questions. But again, inevitably, it doesn't mean that someone's got the right answers just because they ask the right questions. But he's got some wisdom, and so I pursued that, and eventually things happened, and they didn't want me pursuing it. They kicked me out. Right. So I was upset. This was the thing I was passionate about. So I was like, what else is there out there that's talking about biomechanics? And someone pointed me to the direction of Weck method. And this is the guy called David Weck who founded the Weck method. And he's the guy that invented the Bosu ball, which is the kind of half dome, inflatable thing you see in some gyms, but everyone uses it upside down, but it's meant to be used as a compression device for the inner thighs while you're balancing, doing weights or other things. But anyway, I saw some of his videos and he seems a bit wacky, but in a good kind of way. I liked it. And he was rolling the rope, and then he had some athletic looking dudes on his Instagram and on their Instagram rolling the ropes. I didn't quite understand it, but I thought, let me just follow this rabbit. Let me chase this rabbit down this hole. And I ended up in San Diego in October last year, and it was a 3-day course to do my WMQ1, Weck Method Qualification Level 1. And there's like 3 main principles, but one of them was the rope. And I'd seen them doing it, but I hadn't seen it explained. And within 5 minutes of them explaining it to me and rolling it myself, it blew my mind. Like, everyone jumps the rope, right? When you jump a rope, your hands go down and your feet come up. That's not how you jump. It's okay to do, but if you do it all the time, you're teaching your body a bad pattern, because you're teaching it to compress in the air, rather than when you jump, you want to gather your hands, and your hands come as your feet push off the floor, and everything works together. So when you roll the rope, it teaches you the timing of down and up. So you rise with it. You don't jump it when you jump a rope. Like I said, it's the opposite is happening. So you're in the opposite timing to jumping rope, and you're coming up with the rope, as well as your left and right hand are connected via the rope. So they're kind of like can communicate like a cup and a string. Mm-hmm. Whereas if the right is lazy or not coordinated or not timed well with the left, the rope's going to smack you in the head or in the leg. So as you roll the rope, and there's 4 main patterns that you do, which kind of underhand motion, which relates directly to locomotion, overhand, which relates to throwing and boxing and punching and swimming, and then there's dragon roll, which teaches us spinal rotation, and then the sneak, which is kind of an inversion. Between those 4 patterns, it has the patterns of all human functional movement are hidden in the rope, and so you can accumulate thousands of reps with no impact, because you never have to jump off the floor. You can stand on the floor. You can be completely out of bed in the morning and roll rope. You can do it as a warm-up. You can do it as a cool-down. You can get a heavy rope and do it as a core workout for your spine, because your spine's constantly moving in the figure of 8. Every joint in your upper body moves on this figure of 8 path. So it's teaching you positive patterns of movement. It's teaching you good timing. It's teaching you coordination. It's teaching both sides of your body to work together. So your left and right hemispheres of your brain are becoming balanced as well. It's like you say for digestion, because so sometimes I don't want to go for a walk after I've eaten, but I'll go on my balcony and I'll roll rope, and I'm massaging my organs as the rope comes to the right hand side. I'm compressing on the right side, and it comes up into the left, and it's just when I felt it, when I understood that and I felt it, I was like, whoa, this is good. And then having put in, half an hour a day here and there for a few months now, and it's been about 6 months since I had it, and I put out the content on my Instagram and YouTube, and I'm moving pretty athletically because of the rope. So it can teach dancers to dance more coordinated, martial artists to fight with timing from the body. A hook or a punch comes from the floor up through the hip, through the arm. It's slings, working in slings. It's not everything goes. It's this timing. So it's magical for that. If you gave it to teenage kids, it's one of those things where you're like, is it really that? How does no one discover this before? Why they would have done it surely? Why are people not doing it? I feel like you could take a high school football team or baseball team or basketball team, and you put them on the ropes for 2 months, they're going to be a whole nother level of athlete between all of them, because it trains the foundation of coordination, and no other tools do that. We do strength training in the gym. We play the sport that we play. We maybe do some cardio, but we never train specifically coordination. And this is a tool that I found that does that like nothing else. And so I just made a beginner's guide on my website, humantimothy.co.uk, but it's Way of the Rope beginner's guide for anyone that picks it up, just to kind of explain it. But there's videos on YouTube, man. You don't need to get my guide. There's other tutorials out there, and I'm just loving it. I don't know if you've got any questions off that. But.
Yeah, no, I have a few questions, but I wanted to interject what it reminded me of, and you can't help but notice there's a melodic balance to it. And it's not just standing still, and it's your lower body is dancing with it, the hips, the feet, pointing the toes, stretching. And it reminded me of back in the day when I used to go to really fun underground raves, and people would be spinning poi and doing fire ropes. And it kind of has that same figure 8 motion. And it looks, I'm 100% going to get some, and I'm going to play with those things. They look like that's just right up my alley. I'm curious for you as an athlete, as a mover, and this might be, I don't know, I'll just ask, what areas of your body are you seeing changes in? Hand strength, shoulder mobility, kind of what's the general feeling that it's doing to you?
Yeah, well, just to go on the poi point, it is absolutely all tools like poi, but then martial arts tools, nunchucks, bow staff. what the rope can do is it can teach. They're kind of like show tools or weapons. The rope teaches you that from the opposite kind of direction. So it teaches you can work on the footwork and the head positioning and the wrist mobility, because it's a steep learning curve to pick up a bow staff and suddenly spin it, you know. So you can work on the coordination side of it, and then when you do pick up a bow staff, it will be 10 times easier. It will give you kind of rapid skill acquisition. So you could learn the poi a lot faster if you did it. If you did the rope, if everyone did a year of rope at some point in their life, then they could pick up any skill like that a lot easier. Or if you did it alongside it. But with the rope, it's not about, the thing is, it's not about looking cool in any way, even though it can look cool. It's purely about what is it doing and programming into the body internally. Now you ask, what have I felt with it? I felt these, like one thing that we don't utilize enough is our kind of lower lat, because our shoulders, that's what pulls our shoulders down, and we're so square and rigid. In most of our training we do, like CrossFit and everything's very two sides at the same time. And when we walk, like you say, bipedal humans, we walk in a unilateral fashion, one side than the other. It teaches you to access that lower lat a lot better. And if you think about brachiation as well, we'd swing one arm and the other, and we'd be in this balanced position as we swing. So that's the major thing I've noticed, is the timing. I mean, the coordination for my movements, for my running, I feel my timing of my left and right hands a lot better. I feel more controlled in my hands. But then just the access to the core of the body, I feel a lot stronger in my core, and many things.
Awesome. I'm kind of like, where my mind went instantly when you were you know, showing some of the stuff is like, I can't wait to get that thing and put on some music and time up the BPMs.
Yeah.
So that it's kind of like one dance, really.
Yeah, you got to find the right pace music and go. And you can go hard and get angry, or you can go gentle and just dance and vibe out and do some footwork, you know?
That's great. That's great. I'm looking forward to that. So tell us again where people can both find your guidebook and where they can pick up a rope.
Yeah, so I released both at once. I've released my own rope called the Golden Teacher. It's kind of a gold rope, and it's kind of an ode to the old mushroom Golden Teacher. But I'm selling the guide. If you have your own rope, you can make your own rope. I mean, I searched to find a good weighted rope. If you're an American, you don't want to pay the shipping from the UK, because I'm shipping from here, you can check out WEC Method, and I'll always give credit to them as the guys who founded it, and they sell their ropes in America. So absolutely go check out the WEC Method. I think I've got a code for them, Timothy. You might get some discount with the all caps up Timothy. But for mine, yeah, humantimothy.co.uk. There's a beginner's guide course, there's a rope, and I'll create a discount code for your viewers, Rob20, 20% off. So you can do that. And if you want to check it out, humantimothy.co.uk, on Instagram @humantimothy, if you want to see it before you check it out.
Awesome. That's really great. Few more questions if you're good on time.
Yeah, go for it.
Awesome. So one of the, and I struggle with words sometimes. I'm a huge dyslexic, but back when you were vegan, there was not a rivalry, but a friendly poking between vegan Timothy and Eater Portal. And when I was vegan, I looked at a lot of Edu's kind of more black and white messages, especially around diet, as harsh maybe, or maybe just closed-minded. Now I'm starting to understand his perspective more. And it's funny, now that I'm understanding that perspective, he's shifting more towards losing a little weight and a little bit more plant foods and longevity. So it's interesting. Yeah. I'm curious if you're ever going to work with him.
So I've met him probably 2 years ago now, at London Real launch. He did a film with London Real that was just incredible.
Yeah, I saw that. It was great.
Really good. And I was at the launch for that, and I spoke to him. I didn't say like, "Oh, you remember me from the thing," because I'm pretty certain he saw it, but I'm pretty certain he knew who I was at the same time. But I just said, "Thank you for what you do." I think he helps. Like the rope teaches you foundations for other movements. He helps humans get foundations for, I said, it helps, what you're doing is helping people to comprehend breakdancing and parkour, because you teach them the platform level of movement, and from understanding what you're showing, they can understand these more complex movements. And I just said that to him, but I'd love to work with him. I think, not to get ahead, but you know, the rope is such a powerful tool that people are quite new to. This could be the tool that gets me, you know, to connect with someone like him, who I'm sure within time he'll see it and acknowledge it, and maybe, you know, maybe not, but if he does, I'd love to work with him and show him that tool.
Cool. I would personally like to see that. I think both of you guys have a totally different angle, but are kind of on the same path. And, you know, I love the idea of movement culture and
Yes.
and becoming more human. And I think functional natural movement's a word that's thrown around in a weird way a lot, but I like it. It's we're humans. We're meant to be squatting and walking and crawling and climbing and doing all these things. So personally, selfishly, I hope at some point I get to see some content from you guys together, just because I think it'd be cool and interesting. I want to leave you with one last question, and this is what I like to really ask my interviewees, because I generally have been lucky and talked to awesome people, people that inspire me, people that I've learned from, people that have helped me on my path, which you definitely have. And I think this can be kind of an interesting question for the seeker. What does a perfect day look like to you? You get to wake up whenever you want. You get to do whatever you want to do for 24 hours. What does that look like?
That's a good question, and straight away it made me realize that I don't seek it often enough. That's such a good question, because I wake up around sunrise, and I wake up sunrise is quite early here at the moment. It's like 5:30, and I wake up about 6. But a perfect day would be waking up in a tent somewhere on a mountain by a lake, by the heat of the tent, because the sun's just coming up, and then jumping in the lake. And this will be after a long hike the day before, and this day would be finishing the second day back to the car, and then going to a nice little village and getting a steak or something like that, something delicious. Yeah, doing some body weight training on some grass, some kettlebells, some pull-ups. I guess I would do some breath work. I've been doing the 9 purification breaths, which is a Tibetan breathing thing, through different nostrils in the morning. So I'll probably do that by the lake, just to jump back there. A little bit of meditation. Yeah, what's the perfect day? Maybe that's just it. Maybe I'm on the path and I don't finish. Maybe I'm carrying on to go camp again that night. That might be the perfect day. Do you do much of them, like multiple day hikes?
That is if you ask me what my perfect day is, it has a very similar start to yours. I really love having a small tribe with me, 3 or maybe 2 to 3 of my really close friends, and being deep enough somewhere to where if something happens, there's a risk. And that's not like I'm not like a thrill seeker really. I just like to be out far enough to where there becomes this need for each other and for a heightened awareness. And
I love that, bro. You nailed that. Yeah.
If I can start my day waking up from the heat of the sun on my sleeping bag or my face or a tent, jump into a cool natural water source, do some sort of elevation hiking, find a tree, do some pull-ups, do some climbing, do some hanging, do some push-ups, do some squatting, do some wrestling with friends. And then for me, it's always getting that fire at the end of the night, and either bongo drums or someone has a Bluetooth and I'm listening to some really fun danceful music and grooving with my friends and eating good food and BSing and just enjoying community and our bodies together, and then passing out and doing it all over again. I mean, that's perfect. And then throw in there for me once in a while, just having, like right now, I'm in a really interesting place because I was in the middle of a big road trip when this whole thing hit, and I ended up driving from San Diego, that's my home base generally, to Omaha, Nebraska, where my family lives, to visit and celebrate my sister's birthdays. Then boom, lockdown happened. So I've been kind of in Omaha.
You didn't choose to be here.
It wasn't a choice. It was seriously by the grace of God. It was just a coincidence and a beautiful thing. And so another aspect of a perfect day for me is just spending a whole day with my parents and my sisters and my nieces and nephews, and just doing nothing, doing boring family stuff like making a dinner together, or just, having a few cocktails and unwinding, or watching a sporting event with my pop, just basic mundane stuff I'm starting to really appreciate a lot more.
Yeah. I would put a UFC event in at the end of that day would be nice.
It was super nice the other night to watch some live fighting.
It was, yeah.
It was like, oh man, that was really great. Well, Tim, I really appreciate you coming on. It's been super fun connecting with you. Leave us with how people can connect with you and find out more information about you and your life and your journey and your offerings.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, my Instagram @HumanTimothy, or if you're into more movement, calisthenics, body weight stuff, then @TimMoves, TIMMOVES. My website is humantimothy.co.uk. If you put in .com, it will still forward it there. But yeah, check that out. Honestly, the ropes has been a game changer for me. I feel like I've had 3 main chapters of my adulthood, and it's kind of like parkour as a career, veganism, which is what it is, and then this is like biomechanics overall. But the rope is, for me, it's the future of like woke. I made a video called Woke Boy Tools, and it was my #1 tool, and I stand by that.
Very cool. I know I'll be picking one up for you guys watching this video. Head to his websites, check out his work. You'll be inspired. If you're liking my content, Tim takes things to a whole nother level. So I'll be back for many more videos really soon. Peace out, everybody. And thank you so much, Tim, for being on.
Thank you so much, Rob.
No problem.